I never really dreamed that when I got clean that I would be able to find a working relationship with the God of my understanding, and I didn't really look for it. It was just something that kind of happened and grew as I progressed. The thing that I realized today is that is what my recovery is all about. It's all about maintaining and developing an ongoing relationship with the God of my understanding that's going to help me to grow and become the kind of person that I want to be. A lot of the things that stood as roadblocks for me to develop this relationship were solved as the process of going through the steps came about. Realizing, one, that I had a need for that relationship, and then actually getting a desire to have that relationship was something that took a long time and was slow coming about. And it's like today, that relationship is one of the most important things for me, and a lot of times I've sacrificed that in the past for other people and other things in my life, and the result of that was a lot of pain. And developing that relationship for me comes through a lot of different ways. It's through working the steps, talking to people. When I first came here, I had a real narrow viewpoint of where God was and where I was, and I thought I had to go climb the highest mountain and find some burning bush before I was going to get a clue and get a relationship. And what I realize is that the God of my understanding is right here, right now, and He works through the people that are sitting here, and He and that I can get that relationship and develop that relationship by developing the relationships with the people around here. The other things that have helped me in broadening my understanding and being able to develop that is seeing in our literature and in our meetings that spirit or force that's at work, and that really brings us together with people that we just wouldn't normally get together with. And once I was able to get some kind of a desire to have that relationship, my life got a lot better. A lot of the basic things that I do are prayer and meditation to maintain that relationship, and constantly trying to just realize that that there's the presence of God in my life on a daily basis. But that's all I got to share. And I'll turn it over to Patty.
Thanks, Rob.
Hi everyone, I'm an addict. My name is Patty. Good morning. It's still morning for me. I'm really grateful to be here, and I'm really grateful to be clean and to be alive. first and foremost, and to have this wonderful place to come to every Memorial Day weekend. I have to say that. I really enjoy it, and this is a great way for me to develop my relationship with my higher power is actually in this place. One thing that I've found through what I've been taught in NA was that my higher power is mine, and there's nothing that anyone in here or out there or from my family can tell me what it is, because it's mine, and I'm very personal about that, because that's something that means a lot to me. That's life or death for me, you know. I came from a background where my spiritual upbringing was very very shaming, and a lot of guilt involved, a lot of shaming, a lot of just a lot of negativity, basically. So when I got into recovery and I heard all these people talking about all this God stuff, I was kind of leery. I kind of liked the higher power thing a little bit more, because I felt more comfortable because of the background that I had. And also, and talked about in the reading about the only thing that they ask this power to be is loving and caring. You know, that's very important for me. So I try to be very mindful when I share at meetings about my higher power, because I do have spiritual beliefs outside of this fellowship and things that I practice that are my own, that I don't need to influence other people about, and that's just for me, you know, because I have to be aware of the newcomer and not try and force my beliefs on them, and let them develop their own process of finding their higher power. I know a lot of times we get excited with this spirituality, whatever path it is that we find at times, and you know, we want to kind of share it with everyone, just like we want to share NA with everybody. But I think when it comes to this, it's, you know, we have to really be careful, because it's very thin ice at times. So I just try to be very generic and general when I'm talking about spirituality and recovery and talking about my higher power, because my higher power is different from your higher power, you know. So that's one thing I wanted to just touch on. So I came from a background where I had to do a lot of work just to let go of the negativity that it was just a part of me. It was you know, it was kind of like, okay, you know, if I don't do good, then I'm, you know, going to go to hell, or if I don't do this, then this is going to happen. It was kind of like, you know, it was like bribery. It was like, for me, it was like spiritual bribery. If you don't do good, then you're not going to go here or there, you know. And I had to shake a lot of that off and try to really find what is my path, what do I feel comfortable with, you know. And I was really grateful that I was allowed the freedom in recovery and in Narcotics Anonymous to find that path, you know. And nobody had to force any of their stuff down my throat. You know, this is the way, or this is the way, you know. And that really meant so much to me. That open-mindedness and finding my path and finding what my higher power is to me, because it's such a miracle and such a beautiful thing when you do find it, when you do have that. And it's very personal, so we have to be mindful of that. One way, so after, you know, once I started getting into the steps and working the steps, I started to release that old image of what my higher power was, you know. And it was a very, very difficult thing, because it had to do with trust, which I was not accustomed to doing, okay, at all. With not even with human beings. How am I going to trust this force? You know, how am I going to trust this higher power? I don't trust anybody. I don't even trust myself. Okay, so that was one of the hardest things, was just that trust, you know. And incorporating the steps really helped me to find that path, helped me to find that higher power, and to continue to develop it was really through the steps. And if I have a problem with, you know, one of the words in the steps, you know, it's like I just got to say for myself, you know, I know what my higher power is, you know, and just try to let that go. So trust was very difficult, you know, because for years I just had this this negative image of what higher power was, and I struggled for a long time in recovery to free myself from the shame and free myself, you know, because a lot of that had to do with my self-esteem, you know. A lot of that had to do with you know, I felt like I was screwed anyway, so I might as well just screw myself even more, you know. I was a bad person anyway, I might as well just do more bad things. That was like the mentality that I had. So when I got into recovery, to break that and say, you know what, I'm not a bad person. I'm not a bad person, and I deserve everything that's good in this world. I deserve good things. So through asking different people, I was really lucky to find a lot of people that I could ask them, and them not having to say, well, this is what I find is, my higher power, and this is the way to go, and I got to get on my knees and da 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 da. Because what works for that person might not work for me or for the newcomer. And if we're supposed to be focused on the newcomer, we got to be mindful. So these people shared with me, what helped them, and they shared to me. They shared what they did, and I was able to kind of take little things here and there from what you share and what you share, and say, I'm going to try that, see if it works for me. And sometimes it didn't, sometimes it didn't. But NA gave me the freedom to make that choice. So I try to be very careful with what I share. But one thing, the way I developed, my higher power was really through just, like I said, asking different people. Same way when you say, how do you work the steps? You talk to people. You talk to people that are working the steps, and not just talking the steps, but they're actually working the steps, and you can see it happening in their life. So, asking a lot, and that was hard for me because I always felt like, oh, they're gonna think I'm stupid, or if I asked that, I had such low self-esteem. I was really embarrassed and really shy to ask people, about personal things or about steps or higher power and how do you let it go? How do you do that? It took me a while to get the confidence to ask people about that. So I tried all kinds of different things. I'm not going to get into what they were, but I tried different things, and it wasn't my thing. I tried churches, and just I was on my path, and it was really good. I felt like this is it. This is a good thing for me to do, and eventually, when I was ready, it was revealed to me, what my spiritual path was, and I believe that I met my higher power. The first time was when I was hitting bottom. And I felt that desperation, and I felt so alone, and the only thing that everything was black, everything was dark. It was like my last of everything, my last drink, my last smoke, my last everything. It was gone. It was all gone. I was alone, and and this little tiny like voice, I heard this little voice just kind of, edging me just to hold on, and this little tiny whisper inside of me saying, you know what you have to do. And I had known about NA, I'd known about it. I'd made one meeting one time, and when I decided to get clean, I'd go back there, but I wasn't ready to get clean at the time. So I had to go back out there, and it was that little voice that I believe today was my higher power, because I wanted to die. I really wanted to die, and that was my first introduction to my higher power that I know today. And we've been struggling with our relationship ever since. Mostly because of me. But my higher power forgives me. My higher power is very loving. My higher power is just like my bud, we fight, I mostly fight. I do all the arguing and all the pouting and kicking and screaming. But it's always me that leaves the relationship. It's always me. It's not my higher power. And my higher power always takes me back. Open arms, And that's my higher power today. My higher power, I love my higher power. It's beautiful. So I'm really grateful that I was able to find my spiritual path. But staying on the path and staying connected and developing that relationship with the higher power is really one of the most difficult things I've had to do in recovery. Because we get caught up in so much stuff. There's so much stuff to get caught up in, relationships, the other relationships, and the other symptoms of our disease. Just because I'm clean doesn't mean that I'm, not using other things, that causes me insanity and causes me to lose that connection with my higher power. So, my relationship with my higher power has been very up and down, you know. But over the years, it has really grown. And one thing that I know is that my higher power loves me, you know, and that's such a good feeling. Because this is, you know, like you were sharing, that is the most important relationship to maintain and to develop, is that relationship. And I remember one time, I think I had about like a year or two clean, and I went to this convention, and it was you know, and I was in a relationship at the time, and I went to this workshop. It was on relationships. I was like, oh, good, I need to be in that workshop, you know, relationships, you know. And like these two people like talking about the higher power the whole time, you know, and talking about the relationship with the higher power. I was like, what is this, you know? But that was the best workshop I ever went to. That was one of the best workshops, you know, because, you know, the speaker said, well, if you think I'm going to talk about, you know, relationships with man and woman, you got to go to the next workshop because it's talking about a relationship with higher power. And I was like, okay. But that was a very important message for me. So, you know, and that's another thing is relationships. I think not just for addicts, but for anyone, relationships are so difficult, you know, because, you know, we act out, you know, we get caught up, you know, and at least I do, you know, I get caught up and codependent, and let me take care of your feelings, and how are you feeling today, you know, and I don't want to hurt their feelings, you know, and then where's my program? I'm not making meetings, you know, and where's my higher power? Gone, you know, until the relationship ends, then comes the pain, then it's like, oh, higher power, you know, come back, you know, so that's the pattern that I've kind of had to go through, and over the past couple of years, I've been able to try to maintain that relationship. But if there's anyone here newer than myself, you know, just go on your own path and take your time in developing that relationship with your higher power, because that's something that's so life and death. You know, that's going to be really when the shit hits the fan, if I can say that. You know, you're gonna cling to that higher power and that relationship. You're gonna see that you might realize, you know what? That's the only thing that I really have right now, you know, is that connection, because people come and go, you know, family come and go, people die, friends let us down, addicts use again, you know, it's so really that's really the one thing that we have to keep close to us, you know, and with that, I will keep coming back. Thanks for letting me share.
My addict name's Troy. Before we open it up for sharing, it says I need to remind you that we are being taped, and if you have a problem with being taped, let us know so we can take care of that. And with that, this workshop doesn't end until 11:30. Floor is open for sharing.
Thanks, Troy.
I'm a recovering addict, amen.
Amen.
And when I first started coming around, and I have to be mindful of the newcomer too. And for me, you know, I saw that God in those steps and went, I don't think so, folks. I really don't. This isn't going to work for me. Y'all can handle that. I can't. This isn't going to work. And thank God that God put people in my life who said, well, you know, maybe just good orderly direction, Diana, could be God. And I thought, well, you know, if I had good orderly direction, I wouldn't be talking to you, you know. And this person said to me, well, could possibly the 12 steps and 12 tradition of Narcotics Anonymous be good orderly direction? And it was like, oh wow, what a concept, you know. And for a long time that was it, you know, knowing that the steps work, I have to work them, and that the traditions are not for business meetings, and they're not for regional meetings, and they're not for world meetings, they're for me as an addict. And that was all a process, you know. And just recently I was listening to a tape, and the speaker was talking on spirituality, and they said, you know, there's another word in spiritual. And I never realized that before, and that word is ritual. And that's what I get into. That's how I get my spirituality through this fellowship. It doesn't matter, the sun is shining, you know, somebody left me big bucks, my job's going great, the kids all got A's. Good, go to a meeting. You know, my life is down the tubes, I lost my income, you know, I'm being repossessed. My best friend just went west. That's fine, come to a meeting. You know, and for me that's the ritual. The ritual, you know, that keeps my spirituality going, keeps my program going is you know, is talking to the God of my understanding, reading the written word of Narcotics Anonymous, and getting to a meeting, talking to my sponsor. You know, it's all a part of it, you know. And I talk about God of my understanding because I've searched the steps, and I've searched the traditions. And when newcomers come in, they don't read the book. I didn't. You know, I wasn't capable of reading anything. So it's what I had to hear in meetings. And if I hear higher power and I don't see that written in our steps, our language and our steps don't jive, something's not working. And so I'm very mindful of that, you know, and I talk about, you know, a power greater than myself, because a lot of times you all are it. And this last year has been a year of surrender for me. You know, I mean, just surrendering everything all over again, you know. I didn't have to give up the drugs this time, but I had to surrender my life and the way I understood my life to be, and it changed, you know, dramatically. And a lot of you people from here were with me and keeping me clean when I wasn't on speaking terms with the God of my understanding. I was stomping my chubby little feet with my little hands on my hips and, you know, and where the hell are you in all of this, you know? And you people speak to me, you know, you're in my head, you're part of my committee, which is good, because this is a good committee that's up there now. You know, it's very seldom does that terrible voice come up, you know, that just says fuck it, you know. But my committee consists of you folks now and the written word of Narcotics Anonymous, and it's kept me clean this past year, you know. And I know that God is in there. Good orderly direction is in there. The God of my understanding is in there, you know, and a power greater than myself, which is all of you, because you guys taught me how to do what I was totally incapable of doing, and that was waking up and going to sleep. I didn't know how to do that. I could pass out and come to. But you all taught me how to just put one foot in front of the other and to come back and to keep coming back, no matter what. Keep in the ritual. You know, talk to the God of my understanding, pick up the written word, pick up the phone, talk to my sponsor, surrender it. I can't do this, and I can't. You know, not one day has it been a me thing. Not one day do I have clean because of what I did. It's because of what everybody gave me. And for that, I'm really grateful. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks for sharing.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Len. I'm an addict. Welcome to everybody this morning. You know, it's still hard for me coming up in front of a group, you know, making myself honorable, but I know that I have to on a daily basis, you know. And this topic today, it's not too confusing to me anymore. When I first come around, I didn't understand it at first, you know. I was kind of confused as to is a God of my understanding something that's supposed to be, you know, to get me to heaven, or is it to get me through this marriage that's going bad, or what's this all about, you know? And I had to stop and take a minute and realize why I was here. I was here because of a drug problem, because my life was going to hell because of my overusing of drugs, you know. My marriage was gone, my job was gone, my possessions were gone, and I was having a drug problem, and my life was about to be gone if I didn't do something about it, you know. And just through fear, I picked the book up and I started reading the book, and I've kind of been a book nut ever since then, you know. And it says here in the book that the book is spiritual in nature, and not religious, you know, and that was of a lot of comfort to me. And in the prefix part of it, it says here, with gratitude in our recovery, we dedicate our NA book to a loving service of our higher power, that through the development of a conscious contact with God, no addict seeking recovery need die without a chance to find a better way of life. And that's what I was looking for. I was looking for a relief of drugs and a better way of life, you know. And that was the God of my understanding that I started developing at that time, you know. And it was somebody that I could go to that could do for me what I was incapable of doing for myself. You know, there was many, many days that I said, I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to strike that child again. I'm not going to spend that money on Friday night again. I'm not going to cuss that boss out again. I'm not going to miss work again, only to go ahead the next day and just repeat it over and over again. And I was just incapable of finding in my own self the ability to stop doing that, you know. And coming to this program and listening to the people that had been here before me and who had actually worked on these problems was my first introduction to the higher power of my own understanding, you know. Today I have a loving and caring God in my life, you know, somebody that I can go to and speak to each day, you know, and I don't need to confuse that with any type of therapy, you know. I have gone to therapy lessons and stuff to find out communication techniques, you know, so that I can get along with the wife, I can get along with the guy at work and stuff like that, you know. But I need a higher power, somebody that can restore me to sanity and do for me what I am incapable of doing, you know, and that's the power of my understanding. You know, that's what has helped me on a daily basis, you know, to come to these programs, to get honest with myself, to narc on myself when I'm wrong, you know, and to ask for help when I need help, you know, and to listen, you know. I come in this program with all types of prejudices, you know. I wouldn't listen to a woman. My goodness, what would a woman have that would help me, you know? And I found out that if I wanted to keep my marriage, I needed to go to the women in this fellowship and ask them for their help and to find out, you know, how to be a better husband, you know. I needed to listen to the young people. When I come to this fellowship, I didn't want to listen to a young person. I was 46 years old when I come here. And I didn't want no child, no 18, 19, 20-year-old child telling me what to do. They were way too young to tell me what to do. But, you know, at 18, 19, 20 years old, I didn't have the balls to come into these rooms and say I need help. At 21, 31, 41, I didn't have the courage to do that, you know. And I would see these young people come here today, and I would just steal their courage. I was so proud of them, you know, and I would try to put that into my own daily use, you know. And so I found out that it didn't make a difference, you know, if somebody was old or young, short or tall, had long hair, short hair, no hair, black, white, female, male, it didn't make any difference. The drugs treated us all the same, and I needed to learn from all of you, you know, because me personally, and this is just for me, you know, I don't trust those judges, I don't trust those lawyers, I don't trust those people down the street that have all these answers for me, you know. They don't really know what it's like when you get on your hands and knees at 3 o'clock in the morning and crawl into your loved ones' rooms and take that $20 out of their purse or out of their wallet and tiptoe back out. But everybody in this room knows exactly what that feeling is, because we've all stole from people that we love, you know. So when you tell me something, I listen, you know. And I don't have to have a higher power that I have to run around and put a label on, you know. It's just somebody that I can turn to and that I can put trust into, you know. If I don't have something that I can trust in, then I only have myself. And left to my own self devices, I will self-destruct. I have proven it over and over again, you know. I'm grateful to the men and the women of this fellowship who were here before me and kept the doors open so that when I come here and I needed to work on myself, there was a place for me to come, you know. And I'm grateful to the old-timers that stuck around, that didn't go out there and say, well, I have recovery, and now I have a life, and now I need to go live my life. I like that it says a service to a higher power in this book, you know. And coming back, and the greatest service that I've ever done in this fellowship at all is went up to that door when the newcomer come in and said, you're in the right place. Welcome. Sit down, you know. And I think that that we need to be of service to each other in that manner, you know. Thank you for letting me share this morning.
Hi, I'm Vicki, and I'm an addict. Relationship with God. I think about the way I was raised by this really violent, ritualistic Catholic family. And I grew up with this idea that God was this really cranky old white man with way too much power. And there was just no way in hell I was going to measure up. So, you know, I was lost and I was a woman. Oh my God, you know. And I remember getting away from the family and knowing that that wasn't the answer. Their answer wasn't my answer. And going on my own in search of and trying Zen meditation, looking at Islam, looking at Native American religions, Native American sweat lodge rituals. Did I say Zen meditation? Trying this, and this, because something in me knew I needed a spiritual answer. Then I found myself coming back around to being pulled back towards Christianity, not by any person, but just something, and that just tripped me out. I'm like, no way. And so for a while, it was very important to me to follow these sets of rules and regulations. And if I didn't follow these sets of rules and regulations, if I didn't do it right, then once again, you know, I might fall away and I might be condemned. But about 2 years ago, I had this single experience. I have an older sister, Mary, who's, God, we don't hear from her for years at a time. And one December, she got in touch with the family. She needed help moving. We were really concerned about it because she was like very suicidal. She's on, I don't know how many kinds of prescription medication. She has a daughter, Margaret, who was 13 at the time, and we were afraid that Mary was going to kill herself and take Margaret out with her. And I hadn't seen Margaret since she was like a toddler. And while I was up there, God gave me a few minutes alone in this room with Margaret, you know. And I was scared for my sister. I was scared for Margaret. And I knew when I left, you know, we might never see him again. And I was wearing a necklace that someone had given to me that meant so much to me. And I took it off, and I remember, you know, holding it up and talking to Margaret and telling her what it meant to me. And I said, I want you to have it. And this 13-year-old looked at me and she says, no, that's very, very important to you. I think you should keep it, you know, this little 13-year-old. And I held on to it for a few seconds. I'm thinking, well, maybe she's right, you know. Maybe I should hang on to it because she just won't appreciate it and da-da-da-da-da. And, you know, you can believe this or not. I wasn't looking for this. I had no idea this could happen. All of a sudden, there was just a feeling of love that I can't describe, that just flooded my veins. There were no conditions to this love. It was unlike anything I've ever felt before or since. It didn't care where I'd been, what I'd done, what I was going to do. It didn't care about anything except loving me. That's all it was. It was so pure. And for a few seconds, I couldn't see anything, you know. I couldn't see my hands holding this necklace right in front of me. And then I could see, and I heard this voice say, give it to her. And I gave it to her. And went on my way. I wish I could share, I wish I could bottle, I wish I could explain that feeling. Because in my belief, that's my God. In my belief, that's what I'm going home to eventually. I'd like to share how differently I see God from the way I was raised. We all know that art is an expression of self. We all have different ways of expressing ourselves, our creative abilities to express ourselves. And it's like, for me, my God created everything. And you know, I go to the beach, I see the waves, I hear the sound. That's an aspect of my God. My God has joy. My God wants to give me beautiful things. My God wants to share beautiful things with me. My God, who I used to see as this cranky old white dude, created the otter. This playful creature, you know. The sound of the wind, that's my God talking to me. This is not a God that's going to condemn me because I don't know the right thing to do all the time. This is a God that to me is constantly saying, come on, Vic, I'm still here. That's my God. One more thing, one of the most beautiful aspects of my God, it has really become clear to me in the last year, and it's like, it's just glorious. It's going to a meeting and hearing him talk through people. It's like, wow, he's right here in this room, and he's in you, and he's in you, and he's in you, and it's like, wow, we're all united by this God. Thanks.
My name's John.
Hey, John.
I am so relieved to be here. I missed the convention last year because this convention means a lot to me, and this fellowship is it's given me a life. And I was on the way here, and I'm thinking I got so tied up in my addiction of work, and 2 years ago I got married, and I got a house, and I got a life, and it dawns on me being here that last year I missed the convention, and I had missed one since day one, since the first one, and I started to think about me and my higher power, and that's all I have today. I have got away from the rituals that kept me clean. I do H&I work, and it fills a big void in my life, because that's where I was. At some point in my life, I put God on a shelf, put my higher power on a shelf. We went out and used for all those years. And when I came back around here into the fellowship, I heard this spiritual program, and I heard about God, and I put up all these walls, and I didn't want to hear about it all. And today I know that if I didn't come into this fellowship and get a higher power of my understanding, I'd be dead today. Today I have a real good life, and I have a pretty good relationship with my higher power. He's given me a wife and 3 kids, and to me, God talks through all my children. I have the joy of being able to walk around in life and see, like the woman before was talking, just the things in life, appreciating all the things in life. I think that this convention in particular brings me real close with my higher power. No matter where I go here, I'm just in touch. I'm just plugged in. It doesn't matter if I'm in a group of people like this or if I'm all alone just sitting there looking at a tree. Not even the tree here. The tree here will probably, I haven't gone out to that walk because it'll probably bring me right to my knees. That's how spiritual this place is to me. And all week I had a horrible week. Because of my lack of meetings lately and overabundance of work. I got to quit praying for so many things because, God puts all this work in front of me, and then the addict that I am, I go, okay, I have to get all this done and put my meetings and my rituals on the side. And, I had a rough week, and if it wasn't for this convention, I don't think I would have made it out alive because, I just kept saying, if I could just get through one more minute, one more day, and string all this together to a week, I can get to here. It's like this was the promised land at the end of the week because it was a rough week, and I had some dental problems, and thank God I have a dentist in my life that knows I'm a recovering addict, and I've been through no, I don't want the Novocaine because it makes me feel like I'm taking cocaine, and I can say that to people today, knowing that God doesn't hate me and this dentist doesn't hate me. She actually looks up to me for being a recovering addict. And she sent me to an oral surgeon, and I'm looking at the little card and the addresses that have changed, all these different addresses that they had, and I'm saying, nope, don't live there no more, don't live there no more. I have a home of my own today because of this higher power. And I was astonished to see on this card with 6 months clean, because it had been 5 years since I went there, that I had written in bold letters, I am a recovering addict. I went, wow, where did I get all that courage that long ago? Where did I get the courage to stand up for John and quit beating John up with drugs and start saying that, you know, I have a higher power and I'm a recovering addict and I'm okay with that. You know, I can talk to people that are professionals and stand up and have a little backbone today. You know, because for a lot of years, you know, I put God on a shelf and I hid behind drugs. That was the thing. Today I don't have to do that, you know. Today I have a God in my life, and when I go to meetings and when I pray and start a day, the whole world is beautiful. You know, people that I don't even know say hi to me, and you can see it in their eyes because they see the love inside of me, you know. And I can look people in the eyes because I can remember years and years and years of walking around looking at people's bellies and feet and anything to do with contact to their face. And it's all because of this fellowship. You know, they've given me back a life, and they're really a family. And to me, this convention is a real special family. You know, this was one of the first mornings where I got up and all my kids went every which way, and I just went, it's okay, because the family's here. I have a million babysitters, and I don't have to worry about where they are. You know, I just really love life today, and I'm real happy to be here to share. Thanks.
Thank you, John.
Hi everybody, I'm an addict. My name's Nancy. Feels good to be back here again too. I want to know, how did you know my God? That's right. It's everybody's God. I'm really grateful today that I have a relationship with that God. And my higher power really revealed himself to me the day before I quit using. I was in church on Easter Sunday. And all of a sudden the light was intense and the room got bright. And God told me, you don't have to do this anymore. And my life has gotten better since then. And I've just recently gone through a struggle this week with a philosophy debate with my sponsor about my higher power. And hers has changed and mine has not, and we're not compatible anymore. But you know, that's okay, because we all have the right to believe in what we want to believe in. And if we can't agree and learn from each other, then I will find another sponsor. Because that's the way this program works. I can learn from anybody, and I can share what I have. And I've learned a lot in this program. I'm just sitting up here, and I feel the emotions welling up in me, and I don't know why, because I needed to come here and feel the peace. And I just took that walk to the tree, John. And I'm thinking about the cross and what it means to me, you know, and I don't have a set religion. My religion speaks to me through nature. And that was one of the things that my sponsor couldn't relate to. But it doesn't matter, because what I learn and how I feel is all that's truly important in this program. And the things that I can share and reach and touch people, it's amazing. I mean, every year I come back and somebody says, oh, I remember you. You did this for me last year. You had that aloe vera when I was burnt, or I helped you here, or you helped me with that, you know. And it's the little things that you do that you don't realize that you touch people's lives. You know, and that's your higher power working through you for that, too. I just, I don't know what's going on. I just know that I feel real clean and real spiritual today, and I'm glad that you're all here to share this with me. Thanks, everybody.
Hi everybody, my name is Mark and I'm an addict. You know, I don't really fully understand what God is, but as time goes on, I have a better understanding of what it is, if that makes any sense. And I've come to some type of conclusion that I'll never fully understand it, and that's okay, because I think it goes back to something that's said around here, that once you know everything, you're no longer teachable. So, personally, I think there's more after this life than heaven, hell, or purgatory, and I'm not really sure what that is. But I'm open to different teachings of different religions. You know, there's a lot of religions out there. I know there's a lot of Christians in this fellowship, but that's probably just because of this geographical location on this side of the earth. You know, that's just the way it is. There's no right or wrong religion. I don't feel compelled to join any specific religion. I guess I'm not that desperate. I think what I find here as far as a spiritual belief and contentedness is really doing okay for me right now. And I guess anyone in the beginning or who's new here who really is not sure if they got God in their life, the first thing to open that door is to start praying. You know, how many ever times a day it takes until you start feeling something. I too feel closer to God when I'm around nature, even if it's just taking a walk at lunchtime and just seeing birds and squirrels and trees and just the grass growing, you know, just coming out of winter into spring and summer. So when I get too busy, I also shelf God because I think I have too many things to do, you know. And when I get going too busy, I forget to pray. And when I start doing that, the little things that usually bounce off my skin start digging under my skin and bothering me. So I'm so glad I made it here. I had the option to go visit a friend in Chicago, one of my closest friends who's not in recovery, and I haven't seen him in a year. And but that can really be any time this summer for a long weekend, you know. And I'm really glad that I made it. And I think when I leave here, I need to take things such as force myself to make quiet time for myself each day, you know. I work 10 hours a day and I don't have to, but I do, you know. I bought a house last fall and I've sunk a lot of money into it, and I have this obsessive thought about paying off the home improvement loans as fast as I can. And if it doesn't happen as fast as I want, it's going to have to be okay. You know, just quit fighting it. And but I can definitely obsess with a lot of different projects on this house, and forget about taking care of myself and my relationship with my higher power. So I think that's about all I wanted to say. I was thinking of a few other things about what to say when I was sitting back there, and most of my prayers now are thank you prayers, really. That's the majority of the content of my prayers are thank you prayers. And for some people, when things are going well, I think it's a common time when people take God for granted. You know, it's just like, I mean, you see everything. You know, you might have a new living situation, a new girlfriend, a new job, and all these particular areas are going well, and you take God for granted. And for me, I think when things are going well, I have a deeper sense of gratitude, and I feel closer to God when things are going like that. And again, I don't fully understand it, and in the first year or two of recovery, I tried real hard to figure it out, and just like when I was going through the third step, I didn't think I knew enough about it, and I had people around here that had been around for a while saying, you're working it, just the way I see you living your life, you're working it, you know. And I was told it was okay to read the 11th step because it kind of expands on the third step. So I just can't say enough about this program. It's done so much more for me than just taught me how to live life without drugs and alcohol. I couldn't imagine recovery without God in my life. That would be too big a void to fill with anything else. So thanks.
Fanatic, my name's Troy. I hadn't planned on sharing anything today, but I guess my higher power had other ideas. Today I came in to this fellowship also with a Christian background and spiritual beliefs, and some of those still hold true. Some of the right, some of the essence behind a few of the teachings, still hold true for me today, but the spirit is much different. My higher power is so much different. I haven't set foot in a church since probably my mother's funeral last year. My higher power, like other people, is in nature. My higher power is in the trees and out in the grass and in a beautiful snow-covered day or a rainfall, and in other people. I can really hear my higher power speak through other people and just being in fellowship. And it's amazing some of the situations that my higher power puts into my life. Last weekend I'd been putting off this, I'm at this point in time on the 6th step in my step work, and I'd been putting off making, the list of those defects. And it was amazing to me. I went out a day early for our area's camp out, and the next thing I knew I was just sitting there writing. And it's just amazing to me some of the situations that my higher power put into my life. One of the first things I did when I got here yesterday was I popped out to the tower. I took my little camp seat and popped up out on top of the tower and just sat there for about a half an hour. That's where I find it. In those quiet moments of meditation when I'm just sitting, by myself, but I'm not by myself because He's always around me. And my higher power is wonderful. And it's almost hard for me to explain Him. I can't define my higher power. And I'm glad I can't, because if I can define my higher power, that makes it that much easier for me to say, well, that's what that is, and put it back up on the shelf, for future reference. And I'm grateful to have an undefinable higher power. It's just a sense of feeling of well-being that I get when I'm in these rooms, and when I'm in my, and when I'm with myself in quiet moments. And that's all I've got.
My name's Jim. I'm an addict. A few years ago, when I was at the end of myself, like a lot of us, I was alone in an apartment, running out of drugs, lights down low so no one would know I was there. And I remember hearing a voice, and it was my grandfather's voice. He had died a few months before that. And I had blown thousands of dollars of money that he had given me in inheritance on my addiction. And in the dark I heard this voice. It's a lot like other people, where it's a deep voice, it's a very quiet voice, and it said, if you keep doing this, you're going to die a very unhappy young man. And I never, ever forgot that. And about a month or two after that, I got into treatment and got clean. And my first Narcotics Anonymous meeting was in treatment. And I remember seeing everybody smiling and laughing when they came in, people from the outside. And I was sure they got stoned in the parking lot before the meeting. Because we don't have anything to laugh about around here, okay? This is deadly serious. And they came back the next week and they were doing the same thing. They were laughing and smiling and saying, what's up with this, I knew I wanted it. I didn't know what it was, but I knew I wanted it. And a number of years later now, I'm a father. And I find a lot of parallels between me parenting him and my God, you know, the way my God watches over me. I realize today that I am a child of God, my God. And it comes to me in little ways, in little things that I do with him. Particularly an incident probably about 6 months ago where he was taking a bath, and I had him in the tub, and he liked to play with the rubber duckies, and I would hold the duck in my mouth, and he liked to pull it out of my mouth. But when he pulls it out of my mouth, he falls backwards. If he falls backwards, he'll hit his head on the tub, and I know that. So what do? I hold the ducky in my mouth, he pulls it, and I'm standing behind him with my arms, protecting him. And I did that, and all of a sudden, at that time, I realized that that's how my higher power feels about me. He is going to protect me and love me unconditionally. And that was real powerful for me. So, thanks.
I'm going to call Michael. I first want to give honor and praise to our higher power, who's called by many names. You know, it don't matter what name you call him either. And I believe he answers. You know, also want to give honor and praise to our ancestors, because without them we wouldn't be here. You know, and I always say that because I've learned, you know, I'm glad in the book it says, when we answer that question, what is the Narcotics Anonymous program? It says a set of principles written so simply that we can follow them in our daily lives. That's deep. And I'm glad it only went that far then. Because if it had said a set of spiritual principles, I would have might have backed up from it. Because that creates some fear there. Spiritual, what is a spirit? You know, and I don't understand. I can't sit here and say I do understand. Don't want to even go that way. You know, but I can relate it to so many things. You know, I see the spirit in you. You know, I see the spirit in sister right here, you know. But most of the time I look at the house that holds that spirit. You know, and that house is fallible. You know, it's gonna, you know, it just don't look good all the time, and it breaks down. And, you know, having been blessed to be able to work in a field that deals with electricity, and I can't see that electricity, but I know it works. You know, and I know every once in a while they come by and they have to restring them poles because the housing for that spirit is fallible, and it breaks down. You know, I've been baptized a lot of times, almost drowned in Lake Michigan. Man, I was looking for something. I still don't know what it is, but I was looking. I was searching, you know, and I get here and it says to search through prayer and meditation. You know, and one thing that's common to all religions that I've studied is prayer. It's common to all of them. That's what all of them say. You know, and I'm only finding out recently that I need to listen. You know. And like someone else said, you know, I'm learning to give that praise when things are going good. You know, when I drive my truck into the yard, you know, I give that praise because I'm allowed to get from out of dangerous situations to back home. And those things are very important, you know, and to be able to, you know, I understand rituals, you know, I understand symbolism too. You know, this is the first time in 6 years that I've been here that I've been out to that tree. And surely, to me, it's a tree. And I understand the spirit in the tree. I understand the growth in the tree, but I understand the symbolism behind it. And that's the part where I have problem with. Because it's that symbolism behind it that I can take it or leave it. You know, I understand it. You know, I don't get caught up in a lot of holidays, you know, because I look at Easter. Once I give you enough knowledge about these principles, you're going to be resurrected. You know, because you were down here and you're going to come up, and that's all resurrection is me coming up from that dead level. You know, so I understand resurrection. I understand the principles behind it, you know, and what it's supposed to do. And I listen to a lot of religious speakers from, man, the whole gamut, you know, and it's taught me not to, you know, well, you people taught me first, not to condemn the messenger, you know, because a lot of messengers, but what kind of message do they have? What are they carrying? And, you know, all the messengers are fallible, such as myself. So that way I don't hold them up, oh, he's so-and-so, and I got to be, no, I don't, you know. See, I've learned, I come here and I deal in Narcotics Anonymous religiously. You know, I come here religiously. I go to meetings religiously. It's something I do at least once a week. You know, that's what I did to them other fellowships. I went once a week. I put my money in a donation that comes around, you know, and it's amazing. In the basic text it says spiritual principles will never be in conflict. That's why I can go to these religious houses and sit there and listen for the principle and understand, because they're saying exactly the same thing. And I don't want to sit here also and say that those religious programs didn't work. I just didn't practice the principles. Y'all made it a lot easier. Y'all said don't use. That's what they told me. Don't use. And keep coming back. They told me that too. Keep coming back. But I didn't. They said, well, you got to wear this garment. Y'all didn't say that. Y'all said come as you are, smelling like you do. You know. All them other things that come along with it. It's not that those principles didn't work. It's just that I failed to practice it. Right. You know, that's all it was. And I don't deny anybody else what they want to do. Yes, if you want to do that, it's okay. But don't drag me into it. You know, because as soon as the man sit up there and say, well, it's okay for me to do this, but you can't do this, and I got a problem with it. You know, that's where my problem comes in. They say, you have never done nothing wrong? Never? And you see, because I know we're all fallible, and I know we all run into confusion every once in a while in our lives. So, you know, I don't drag people into the things I do. You know, the principles I deal in are universal to anybody. You know, let's speak to harmony. I need harmony in my life. I need balance. I need order. You know, I need to be righteous. That don't say I always am. You know, but I need these principles, and these principles are the same principles that I would have got, you know, after I got drowned. You know, hopefully I was able to live through that. You know, I'm glad, but you know, to get caught up into it, now we got to have the pastor's day and all of this. They didn't have that, but they were the same principles. It's just that when I got here, they made it a lot easier. The book was a lot simpler. I could understand it. You know, it actually talked about me. It didn't talk about somebody 100 years ago who I never knew. See, I'm looking at y'all and like somebody else shared, if you went through something and you shared it, I could relate. You know, and that's what that relationship is all about. For me to be able to relate to you, to say, that happened to me. You know, and also to be humble enough to where, because I had a sponsor who died of the virus, and I had to be humble enough to say I didn't understand. And there was some spirit in that. But to be able to sit there and listen to him when he was going, surely I didn't understand, but my part in it was to sit there and listen, just to be that ear for that person when that fear and that frightfulness and everything else came upon that person. See, my spirit is the same spirit as yours. It's just the houses are different. You know, mine weighs about 260. It might be about 6 foot, maybe this long some ways and this way some others. You know, but it's like, that's not what's common to all of us. What's common to all of us is the spirit inside of us. You know, and it's hard because a lot of times I see my spirit in you and I dislike it. And I lash out at you because I'm disliking my spirit at the time. You know, it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with my spirit because I see me. And here you come, and here I can think, man. You know, I can relate what brother just shared. You know, I can see in my children my parents. And that's hard because I can actually see it. And I look at it. That's why I always give praise to my ancestors. You know, what about our ancestors, those addicts who were sitting at this table before I got here? You know, I've been here a few years, but there were way addicts sitting here a long time before I got here doing the same thing. You know, and I always want to invite them into a room because it fills those empty chairs. You know, so when I go to a meeting and there's just me and another addict there, there's just more than just me and that addict there. Because that's that spirit of all those who came before me are there also. You know, and I like I said, I don't want to get caught up into them religious things. You know, I do some studying, got 4 or 5 Bibles here and there, and people come to the door, and you know, I get in conversation. You know, sometimes my shortcomings allows me to get into a conversation with them, and I have fun with it because I'm a controversial person. You know, you didn't hear that here, but you know, it's like sometimes I just like to battle. You know, and they say, well, you're not in my religion, but you understand principles. And those are the same principles I got here. You know, it's the principles that count. And yes, they are spiritual in their nature. If I treat you right, you'll treat me right. There's reciprocity in there. That's all that is. You know, I learned long words now since I've been in recovery, man. and remember them too. So, you know, it's the spirit, you know, that part that says what comes from the heart reaches the heart. That's the spirit. That has nothing to do with the physical body. That's my spirit actually touching yours, and we can't see that, so it's so hard for me to say, I ain't got no spirituality. Because I can't see me touching you. But every once in a while you'll nod your head like that and makes me think you know what I'm talking about. Or maybe something wrong with your neck. That I can't, you know, that's part of it. You know, but as long as you nod your head, I'm thinking, hey, maybe that person understands. Maybe they know what I'm going through. And it's okay. You know, because sometimes something's wrong with my neck too, and I'm nodding like that. You know, it's okay. You know, that's all I got.
Hi, I'm Kim and I'm an addict.
I really don't like sitting up here like this. You know, I'm real more comfortable at the tables. You know, but I've made this commitment to start doing a lot more service work. You know, I was reading about the symbol, you know, and it says that the base of our symbol is in goodwill, and we do goodwill by service. And I know if I'm going to do more service, I'm going to have to speak a little more. So, you know, you guys told me to just fake it till I make it. So, and that's how, you know, I work my second step. You know, it says we can work this step long before we can understand it. And, you know, and the only prayer that I knew was the Serenity Prayer and the Lord's Prayer. So, you know, I just start getting on my knees every night and every morning and just saying the prayer, you know, just saying the prayers. And, you know, I started coming to, you know, then I started coming to believe. And, you know, you guys told me that I needed to find a God of my own understanding. And, you know, sometimes I see people in the fellowship share about their God, and other people have a problem with it. But you say in the second step to find a God of your understanding, you know. You know, thank God we can find a God of our own understanding, you know. And I want to love my brother and my sister for finding a God, you know. Thank God you have something that you can pray to. You know, thank God you have something that'll hold you at night when you're laying there rocking and you got some money sitting in the dresser and you want to go to the dope house. I don't care who your God is, just as long as someone's there to, you know, hold you, you know, to keep you safe. You know, my sponsor left the fellowship because she felt she was judged. And, you know, I told her, you know, no, you don't, they ain't judging you. You know, just, you know, I don't know what, I miss her. I miss her at the tables. Because without her, I wouldn't even have a God, you know? And when she shares sometime, a lot of people, you know, she walks in the light, you know? You know, she believes, you know, she holds on to her God, you know, and she loves people, and, you know, she has that peace, and she has that kindness, and she has that gentleness, and, you know, I miss her because we need that, you know. You know, we need them people to hug us when we don't know how to hug people, you know. So, you know, I just try and practice, you know, I try and practice, you know, all the good things that I want, you know, and I have people that I look up to, that I would like to have what they have. You know, so a lot of times I fake a lot of it until I make it, you know, because I have to act myself into good feelings, you know, or act myself into good behavior, you know, and it's hard sometimes, you know, because it's easier to come and judge you than to look for the goodness in you, you know, because if you know, you grow up feeling less than, you know, so you're always judging other people, you know, just so I can look better than you, so I don't have to feel as bad as I really feel about myself, you know. So, you know, it's a process. You know, I love this fellowship. You know, gosh, I love this fellowship. 'Cause, you know, when I was a kid, I had the opportunity to go to camp when I was a kid, and
you know, I went and ran this morning, and I'm walking here, and the little chipmunks, you know, I remember them from when I was a little kid. They're all over the place. And I just started crying, you know, because he just brought me home. You know, he's just bringing me home. You know, the more good things I get to see, you know, it's just him. You know, he's just bringing me here. He's just showing me all this beauty, you know. And then us that get together all the time, you know, at meetings and stuff, it's love. I heard a woman share at DACNA. She says, you know, love's in these rooms, you know. And it says in the second step, my God is loving and caring. So I'm right at home, you know. Thanks for letting me share.
My name's Troy. I just wanted to say we got about 15 minutes left.
Hi, family. I'm Annette Marie, and I am truly blessed to be here. Oh, man. I heard an addict share one time, and they said, there's two things you need to know about God. There is one, and you're not it. You know? And I, whoa, you know. I remember my addiction, man, when I was out there, and I had prayers. You know, we always had prayers. I know I did. Please give me one more. Please. I swear after this, I'll stop. Just one more, you know. I'll go home, you know. And all them foxhole prayers that I've done, you know. And you know what? It happened. But only through the grace of God that I am sitting here today. And when I first got clean, you know, they told me pray, and I didn't know how to pray because when I grew up religiously, faithfully, and I you know, because my God was a punishing God. That's what I was always taught. You know, if you're that, you know, all that good shit, you know, and that's how it was for me. So when I felt guilt, shame, remorse, everything. So how could I pray to something that is going to punish me? Punished me already. He's going to punish me again. So I had to get with that prayer situation, you know. So I just started praying and getting on my knees and praying, and it wasn't through my heart; it was just through my head. You know, and I could feel that that conscious contact with my higher power wasn't there for a long time because I didn't accept who I was. I couldn't accept who I was, and it took me a long time. I mean, I could admit it. I admitted it all for way before I even knew about the program. I admitted, yeah, I'm an addict. Give me some more drugs. You know, that was me. You know, and I was proud at that time, you know, because the environment I grew up with, you know, that was nothing. Everybody used. It was a part of life, the only way I knew, you know. And when I got here, you know, it took me a lot of milestones to get where I'm at today. A lot. A lot of trials and tribulations, a lot. You know, when I started praying too, you know, the Serenity Prayer and the Lord's Prayer, you know, and I had to get with them prayers to myself, and I had to understand what grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. See, I didn't know the difference. I didn't have any wisdom. I certainly didn't have any courage. And what is serenity? Tell me. You know? So I had to learn these things because, see, when I was out there, everything got taken away from me. Kids, family, house, all in one day. I got evicted in one day. My kids got taken in one day. I got thrown in jail in one day. All of that shit in one day. But all of that was a process too. See, I didn't become an addict overnight. You know, I was the last one to know that I was totally out there. You know, I'm that addict. I ain't got a problem. You do. You know, only through the prayers of my family and people who really love me. You know, they prayed for me out there, but they were tired too. You know, they were sick and tired, just like I was. You know. I am so truly blessed to be here today. You know, coming into fellowship and just staying here. All I want to do is just stay clean. I didn't want to use it anymore. I didn't want to. I surrendered. You know, so I really got to praying, and I still had the urge to use, you know, the obsession. So an addict told me, Marie, get on your knees and pray and pray. When I got it, because I was in a 90-day treatment program, mind you. You know, so I was clean. I was in a safe haven. I was clean. But when I went out the doors, I had to go back to the same environment. Same people, same everything. So, you know, and they talk about change. The only thing I could change is self. I didn't even know nothing about change. What was change? What was change? I had no idea what change was. So, you know, I stuck with the family because that's all I knew. I didn't know. Man, I only lived on the east side to 79. That was it. That was my world. You know, I didn't know no other place. So I had to get with that. You know, when I prayed and got on my knees and cried like a baby, the obsession to use was gone. Was gone. Only through the grace of God I was able to get close to 4 years. everything started going great and good, and and I started slacking down on Maria. I was focusing on everybody else, the kids, the man, the house, the cars, the job. I'm okay. I can handle it. I'm okay. My prayers got changed. I was praying real good back then. I had that conscious contact, mind you. I started losing it again. I knew I was losing it. And I was even sharing in meetings, man, I can't feel this. I can't feel it. What is going on? I started becoming my own God. You know what I'm saying? They talk about the people, places, and things. Be aware of them. I wasn't aware of them. And I would argue and get into conflicts with my husband, who is another recovering addict, and you don't know what the hell you're talking about. He's seen the trees in the forest. I didn't see shit because I ended up working where I used to get high at, mind you, same place, but I had a job there. It was a good job. Everything was great, But I started going to the restaurants that even at the same place. I used to go in the bathroom to get high because I couldn't make it home. Copped and went there. Could not make it home. So it's like, oh, and then the prayers, my prayers changed. They were just like, okay, God, thank you for waking me up today, and good night. See, I used to pray for everyone else. I didn't even do that anymore. That stopped. I'm telling you, that conscious contact was gone with my higher power. I went to meetings, I sat there and I shared. I couldn't even share anymore because I had nothing to give. I was drained. Spiritually, I was drained. And I used. Nothing good, nothing bad was going on, mind you. It was nothing bad. I mean, everything was okay. I had an interview, got a job. Nothing bad was going on, but Marie used. Because I stuffed everything. I stopped making meetings. I stopped talking to my higher power. I stopped socializing or even talking to my sponsor. Those are the things that God uses in my life that I stopped applying. And I use. Today, I'm developing a better understanding, a greater understanding. I don't know what happened out there. All I know is I was sitting there in the dope house, and a person came up to me, a practicing person, and told me, Marie, why are you here? First she said, can I ask you this question? I said, yeah, and I'm thinking, what is she going to ask me? I ain't got no more money or nothing, you know what I mean? And shit ain't happening, and she goes, why are you here? And I'm like, what? And she goes, you don't belong here. You don't even look high. You don't dress like us. I'm thinking, man, that blew me. I'm thinking she wants to cop some more shit, or she wants to do. That was my higher power speaking through this person. See, I lost my place back there 4 years ago. I lost my place back there, honey. Ain't no going back. This is my home. Be it if I self-centered and self-willing and whatever the hell, this is where I need to be. And God used that person to get to me, and that's how my higher power works in my life. So I had to sit there and think about where I was at, and what I was doing, and what is in my life, what's going on in my life. I have all you beautiful people in my life. I have a beautiful spiritual family in my life. I'm a productive member of society. God gives me the strength and to handle things that I could do today, and here I am gonna fuck it up for one hit. Fuck it all up. I mean, I'm telling you, and I earned all that time I got, because I went to meetings, I prayed to my higher power, I applied for, I wrote about the steps in my life, and I applied them. I stopped applying them. I started gaining power, I stopped seeking out a power greater than myself. I started getting into that and saying shit. Hey, what's up, brother man? Talking all that language that I always spoke, out there, I got very complacent because I was back in the old days, in my surrounding. So I became that person again that God used so hard and disciplined me so much to get to where I'm at today. And my higher power loves me. He loves me because I would not be sitting here today. Because where I was at, they just got busted. Drug dealing, gang banging, and drug war, and I was right in the middle of that shit. And I prayed then to, oh Lord, but I couldn't move, and there was a lot of fear there. But I am truly blessed to be here today, and the understanding I have of my God today, it's not just the Serenity Prayer or the Lord's Prayer. It's just a totally, I don't just pray at night or just in the morning, throughout the day. Thank you, God, for getting me to work. Thank you, God, for getting me lunch. Thank you, God, for, and the beauty about where I work, God is good all the time. Let me tell you this. It is so serene at my job. I even tell look, I don't know what to do myself. Pay's good, everything's good. My own, my own phone, my own desk, my own whatever, you know what I mean, space. And I'm like, I don't know what to do myself. I'm so used to ripping and running and flying and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Remember, you know how they say easy does it? And I always say, but do it. God was telling me, look, practice what you preach. Do it yourself. I'm sitting in a place where, now my supervisor is so spiritual, I mean, I love it. Because I get that good spiritual nurture that I need. God got me there for a reason. It's not just to help others. He's helping me. He's doing for me what I can't do for myself. I can't do this alone, y'all. I can't. No way can I do this by myself. I am so grateful to be here today. And I call this my home convention. Every year we be here annual. It's so beautiful. I just came from the meditation one, and that was beautiful. It was all serene. It was talking about the trees, the flowers, the birds, the squirrels, all of that. And I am blessed to be able to see all that, My God is good all the time, inspiring me. And my sponsor, I use my poor sponsor. I don't call. She told me, after my relay, she said, call me on a daily basis. She should never give me her work number, because I call that work, home, wherever, because if whatever I'm going through, that's the therapeutic value. One addict can help another. I have to tell them myself. I have to tell them what I want to react on when I know I need to be responding today instead of reacting, because I'm all messed up. But I am so grateful to be here, and I'm grateful. I am blessed, and this program is so beautiful. Man, the only focus I gotta focus on is me. I can't do nothing for I can't focus on no one else, because then I ain't looking at my shit. Just like an addict share bar, I'm gonna go sit by you because you're a little less than me, and it'll make me feel good. I can't do that. Not today. I have to get all that shit garbage out, deep rooted inside of me that been in there for umpteen years, so I could live for today. And I'm truly learning how to live just for today. It's not easy, because I get caught up in yesterday, last year, tomorrow, or shit that happened 20 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Because something will snap me and make me, oh yeah, I remember that, and flashbacks or whatever you might want to call it. And it's like, but that's something I need to look at. See, God is only going to reveal to me something that I'm ready for to handle. Something that may have happened 20 years ago, He's going to show it to me now, because Marie, you're ready to deal with this. Back then I wasn't. 4 years ago I wasn't. Today I am. And only through the help of you people, my higher power, and my sponsor. Now, I'm not putting her on a pedestal. Yes, she has problems, and she's going through stuff, and she's human. We are, we fall short. We fall short. I'm grateful to be here, and I thank y'all, and I'll keep coming back.
My name's Meg. I'm a recovering addict. I wasn't going to say anything. When I was out there, I believed in a God, but I didn't believe that God could love me. I didn't think I deserved it. But I came into this fellowship, and you guys told me, you can find a God that does love you, no matter what. And I'm grateful for that. And every time I think I get a handle on what that God is, it gets bigger. Yeah. It does. It does. And it is so awesome to be here. I've got a short time around here, but I know a lot of people. I know a lot of you guys, and I hope to know a lot more before I leave. My relationship keeps changing, and it's not because the God of my understanding is changing, it's because my understanding of my God is changing. And I'm grateful to you guys for that, because it's only through you that I can grow. Because I know when I was out there, I was not growing, I was dying. And I don't have to do that today, because of what I've gained, because of what I've been given. And I wanted to say thank you. And that's all I got.
Thanks, Meg.
My name's Troy.
Hey, Troy.
It's 11:30. Thanks everybody for sharing.